welcome to my video and happy 2023. Today I just wanted to go over the interview process and training process of Skywest and Alaska Airlines. I did both in 2022, and ever since the pandemic they've been pretty much mass hiring, so it's a really great time to get into the industry if you're interested. For pretty much any of the airlines really, Delta, United, Alaska, JetBlue, if they're still a thing. Sorry, I'm getting distracted. Anyways, let's get right into it. Hopefully this video will kind of ease your nerves and give you a better idea of the key differences between the two and help you make a decision for which one you want to go with. So yeah, thanks for watching. I want to apologize if I go a little bit out of order. I didn't really write anything down, so I'm kind of just going from the top of my head. First off, requirements: you have to be 21 for both of them. You don't need any previous experience in aviation, however a college degree or at least customer service experience would be great. I worked at REI. I also worked as a teacher for a while, so I used examples from like our safety standards from being a preschool teacher in my interview, as well as retail. Okay, so height requirements: you have to be between 5 foot and 6 foot to work for Skywest. That's because their planes are smaller. They fly the ERJ 175, the CRJ 200, 700, and 900, versus Alaska Airlines flies the Boeing 737 and the A321. So Alaska Airlines, they say that for the height requirements, all you have to do is be able to reach 5'2". When I first got to Skywest, the very first thing that they did was measure us. And when I got to Alaska Airlines, the very first thing they did was tell us, hey, show us that you can reach this line up here. Compensation: Skywest starts about $20 an hour. Alaska starts at $25 an hour about. So a little bit of difference there. Again, it's because Skywest is a third party, so you're going to be flying older airplanes. For United, Delta, Alaska, and American, this is also something to consider, because that means that you're going to have to be reading off different scripts depending on which airline you're flying for that day. Also wanted to talk to you guys about domiciles. Alaska Airlines is only based out of the West Coast, so if you want to work for Alaska, just keep in mind that you'll have to relocate if you don't live on the West Coast. Well, you have to relocate no matter what, unless you happen to live in the city where your domicile is. But Alaska is Anchorage, Portland, Seattle, and a couple places in California. And then Skywest is pretty much all over the United States, in almost every state, but I can add that link below because they have a list of their domiciles online for you to look at, which is great. And I also want to mention, for domiciles with Alaska Airlines, we found out in the second week what our domiciles were going to be, which was great because then you could plan ahead. We all got Seattle-based domiciles, versus for Skywest, you don't find out until even maybe a few weeks after you get out of training. So you definitely need to plan ahead and have a place that you're going to stay in the meantime after you finish training, before you find out your domicile. So, alright, interview process. For Skywest Airlines, it's very basic. Submit an application, and then you get sent a video interview where you have 30 seconds to respond to each question, but then you also have a couple minutes before the question to think about it. So it's very easy. They kind of just ask you why you want to work for Skywest, what makes you think that you'd be a good flight attendant. They ask you to describe a situation where you're handling a difficult customer, just really basic interview questions like that. And then from there, you get an email whether you were accepted or not. So for Alaska Airlines, you do the same interview, except then if you're selected, you have to move on to a second interview, which is going to be in Seattle. You have to pay for your own ticket, so keep that in mind. I'll send you an email saying if you pass the video interview or not, and then give you a few dates to choose from, usually within the next week, for which interview you want to attend. So you get to Seattle, and there's 3 different interviewers that you're going to speak to. You're going to speak to one-on-one, and then the second one-on-one, the third one, and then a fourth person is going to finally tell you if you passed or not. And then after that, if you do pass, then you're going straight to the drug test. So for Skywest, you just do a urine test. You do that before you get to training. For Alaska Airlines, you do the drug test at the interview. You do a urine test, but then you also do a mouth swab for nicotine, which takes like 2 or 3 days to get out of your system. So don't stress that. However, they do want you to be nicotine free for about a year, I think. But they don't check. There's no way they could check. And the questions for the Alaska interview are going to be a lot more in-depth than Skywest. Skywest is very basic. They just want to make sure that you're responsible enough. Alaska Airlines wants to know everything about you. For the Alaska one, I probably answered about 30 interview questions, 10 per interviewer, And then the last person I talked to also asked me a couple questions, so keep that in mind. The best way to practice, again, is just to think of good scenarios to use beforehand, and then look at the questions online on like Glassdoor and Indeed and stuff, I think is where they have them. Anyways, so now that we got all of that taken care of, I want to talk about training with you guys. I like training for Alaska Airlines a lot more. It seemed a lot chiller. The information was a lot better. The tests were a lot harder too. For Skywest Airlines, and I think Alaska too, it was about 32 days of training. For Skywest, it was 1 day every 10 days off, so 2 days total. And then for Alaska Airlines, you had every Sunday off, which was a little bit nicer for sure. Definitely make sure you have a lot of money saved up. Not a lot of money, just enough so you know that you'll be able to pay for Ubers and groceries and maybe new shoes or hair ties or anything else that you think that you may need further on in training, because it is a whole month. Yeah, so just definitely be prepared for that. Outfit requirements. I do not want you to get kicked out of training because of your outfit. It sucks. Skywest is a lot more strict. It's probably because you're in Utah, but black and white only, whereas with Alaska Airlines, you could wear pretty much any color you wanted as long as it was business professional. So like blazers, dresses, but yeah, the requirements were more lenient. For Skywest, in fact, less than a week into training, they take you into a room with one of the instructors. They make you pull up your pants and show that your socks are long enough and the right color. They make you pull back your hair so they can check for tattoos and piercings that you might be hiding. These days they're a little bit more lenient with tattoos and piercings, however they still have pretty strict requirements. Natural hair, not sure if I said that. One of my colleagues got written up for having like 3 little piercings in her ear, and then I got written up because my watch was like a light blush pink instead of rose gold color. And then that's pretty much everything that I wanted to go over. I'll talk about testing real quick. I think I already said tests at Skywest were a lot easier. The study guide was pretty much just the test. Definitely download Quizlet. That's pretty much the only thing that I used to study. Tests in Alaska Airlines, the written tests, you're only able to get 1 single retake for all 4 of the tests, versus for Skywest Airlines, I believe you got 1 retake for every single test. So theoretically, you could fail the first test on every single one for Skywest and still pass the training, but for Alaska, that was not the case. So each day of the training was usually about 8 to 10 hours, however, it always varied depending on what we were doing that day. One of the biggest differences also was that in Alaska Airlines, we had to do a swim test, and then Skywest didn't do that at all, because they don't really fly over water unless you're going, like, down to the tropics. Guys, one more thing that I wanted to mention, research these airlines. There were a couple of people in my Skywest class that didn't realize we were a third party, so they were very confused when they started bringing up Delta and American and everything. And then don't call Alaska Airlines Alaskan. There's no N at the end. And then during your interview, feel free to bring up Alaska's commitment to green emissions, because I think that's another good tip that I think helped me pass. Anyways, thanks for watching, everyone. Have a great new year and good luck.